Hi, I have no idea what happened. This is the 40th broadcast I've done on Periscope, and I was in the middle of doing a Periscope broadcast and it kicked me off. I have no idea what happened with that. So I'm sorry about that. So I'm back in now to keep talking about storage. I have no idea what happened, but it just shut off. Periscope did, so I apologize for that. I am Jennifer Roskamp. I blog at theintentionalmom.com. We were talking storage, and I was talking about how the storage area that you have to store things in, you need to get some shelves in that storage area first, figure out how you're going to store your stuff, and then you need to measure the dimensions of the storage shelves, each individually in case they're not the same. And after you have the height, the width, and the depth of those storage shelves, you need to then take those measurements with you. I find the best prices at Walmart. And you're just going to be using those measurements to match up with containers and bins that you're going to be using to store your stuff in. And the most efficient way that you can, using those measurements and the measurements of the baskets and bins and containers that you can find. And I am able to store a ton more stuff because I have every square inch that I can maximized for space because I have done that. So while your storage space might be different than mine, hi, welcome back. I'm so sorry, I have no idea what happened. I was talking away and all of a sudden my Periscope just shut off. I've never had that. I've done, I think, over 40 broadcasts and I've never had that. So I'm sorry, but I'm glad that you're back here. I saw you here earlier. So welcome back, Pennies to Pearls. What is your first name? I would be curious to know. So I can call you something other than pennies to pearls. So that's the first step in storage and having effective. Brittany, hi, nice to meet you, Brittany. Welcome back. I'm sorry, I've never had that happen. That was crazy. So the first step for your storage and being efficient is being able to find those measurements and go to Walmart or wherever you're going to go to find your containers, and like a Tetris puzzle, you want to figure out how you're going to get the most space. And I'll show you mine in a minute. And I literally just went there with my tape measure, and they give you the measurements on there too, but I like to actually just take my tape measure and make sure of exactly how the stuff is going to fit. And you're just measuring and you're plugging it in like a math equation to figure out, let's see, if I put this container on the bottom, this one can go on the top. And if this is the depth of my shelf and I'm going to have this container, that means that I can slide this littler one here in front of it. And I'll be able to show you how that works in just a minute. So that's the first important step, is finding your space and then measuring the space so that you can fit stuff. Hi, Amy. Good to see you. I don't know if you were here earlier, but Periscope booted me out. I've never had that before. So yeah, I don't know. Periscope booted me out, but I'm back in now. So yeah, I know, isn't that weird? I've done over 40 broadcasts. I've never had that happen before, but I'm glad people are back here. So here we are on take two of the storage. So once you have figured out how the best way, utilizing all kinds of different containers and bins, however you can, then you are able to make the most of your storage space. So that's the first point, is taking those measurements to the store to find your spot. To find your stuff to fit in the spot. The second thing is, before you go absolutely crazy, look around and see if you can repurpose anything that you already have. So like I'll show you in a minute, in my storage room, I actually have a bookshelf that I use now for a storage shelf. It was a bookshelf that was in my daughter's room, but as our family has grown, we've had to take furniture like that out of bedrooms to put in beds because we now have more children to have to put in a bed because we have more kids. So I have this random bookshelf and I could put it in a garage sale and maybe get $2 or $3 for it. But I would rather figure out a way that I can repurpose it, if I can, to actually make some use out of it. So I have found some really good stuff to store on that little bookshelf. So that was, so that's the second tip, is first look for repurposing. You can also do that with containers. Do you have containers or bags or bins that you maybe intended for one thing that now you can use in a different way that will work for you in those spaces? So old diaper boxes with fabric covers. I know, have you seen those on Pinterest? You can make beautiful stuff on Pinterest. I am missing the crafting gene altogether. I scrapbook. I take great pride in the fact that I can put together some decent scrapbooks, but that's about it. In terms of anything else crafty, I'm just not. That kind of thing, that project would not bore me, but it would frustrate me to tears. Even if it's simple, I'm missing that altogether. So if you guys are able to do that, that's totally frugal. So I'm totally up with that, but that's my limitation. I can't make that stuff. So repurposing, that's a great idea for repurposing. So you're going to repurpose stuff. Let me see if I had one other Nope. So that was the two things I kind of wanted to give you before I take you into my storage area to kind of put this stuff. Yeah, no, it's sad. It really is. I do have a very crafty daughter, so that's great. I don't know where she got it from. So I'm going to take you into my storage area now and show you kind of how this all works out. So it's not necessarily the most beautiful place, but it's organized well. So here we go, okay? All right. So, this is where I have, and it's hard to give you exact perspective, so I'm also getting ready for a garage sale, so I apologize for that. So, but you can see here, I'm going to take you like back here. I have, I don't remember the depth on these, but you can see how I've got this gray bin here, and then underneath that is actually a clear bin. And it would not have worked for me to have the two gray bins on top of each other because that would have been too tall. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying you're taking your measurements and figuring out what's going to fit. I had to, you know, I knew I was going to start with either the gray one or the clear one. I can't remember, but I knew if I used two clear boxes, I would be missing, you know, I would be missing space. But I figured out if I used the gray and the clear, I was getting the most space. So let me show you here. I have like 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches from the top of that gray bin to the top of the bottom of the shelf on top of that. So, I mean, that space is maximized. Then let me show you this right here. Then I've got this clear bin. And again, and this is like flush up to here. So remember how I was telling you, you know, I had those bins there, the gray and the clear. I knew I wanted those, but then I had this empty space here. So then I just started measuring smaller containers to figure out what was going to fit here that was smaller. How could I utilize that space? And then like here I've got a few boxes. I don't have all bins, but I mean like this stuff up here is still organized. I know exactly what's in here, and there just isn't a container that's thin enough, but I'm not going to let that stuff go, you know, that space there to go to waste. So I've just got a few things up there. Sometimes I will use like I've got a garbage bag in here. Let me just take this down. I've got a garbage bag in there of some stuff because I couldn't find a bin that would, there's some stuff behind there. I couldn't find a bin that would fit perfect. So I just created something that would work well with that bag. So, and I've got that, I'm going to swing you around this way. Sorry to make you dizzy. Like over here, this is all my crafting. Yeah, we talked about that. These are my scrapbooking supplies. But again, I've got stuff behind them. In containers and boxes back there, and then these are the drawers with the stuff that I use all the time, and this is what I use all the time, so it's in front. And I mean, I'm flush up here, you know, I've got every square inch of depth here accounted for. Same thing with down here, you know, I've got different stuff. That's our high school stuff back there, like old yearbooks and stuff. I mean, this is just, I'm going to show you kind of for perspective. There's the front of my storage shelf, you know, so I mean, I've just got everything fitting in there, just perfect. So, so that's just a little bit of how that, these are wood shelves, so I'm able to nail into the side of them. So that's where I keep all of my out of season wreaths. This is how I store, there's another wreath up there. This is how I store my wrapping paper. This was going to be otherwise called 2x4s, whatever they are, studs. That was going to be wasted space, and I needed some place to put my gift wrap. So I'll utilize that space. How you back around. So that is just a peek into how I can get the most space out of my storage. It's just by fitting everything in and plugging everything in space. And so that's how I do that. Now I'm going to take you back to the bottom area of that shelving because that's where I keep my gifts, and I'll show you how I do that in just a second. I wanted to give you a few tips before I turn you back around and make you dizzy again on how I do the gift stash. I love the wrapping paper storage. I know, isn't that cool? Sometimes, every once in a while, you know, these ideas come and it's like, wow, that's only like a year old maybe. Before then I stored it all on the shelf. So somehow that came to me in some sort of revelation. So feel free to use that idea. But let's talk gifts for a minute. The number one thing, if you are going to be buying gifts ahead of time, listen closely to what I'm going to tell you because I learned this the hard way. Okay? If you are going to be keeping gifts ahead of time and you are going to have a gift stash, you need to write down what you have because otherwise it is impossible to know what you have without unpacking all of the boxes. And for a family of my size, that would be a lot of unpacking. So when I have a gift log, and I have each person in my family a name and then a column. And underneath that person's name is everything I have for them for gifts. Now, you do need to keep this in a good place because you can't have people finding it. But you need this gift log of what you have. And not only does that help you know what you do have, it helps you know what you need to shop for still. So when birthday time rolls around and you're wondering, do I have everything I need? Do I have to fill in with a couple of quick things from the dollar store or whatever? You've got it all written down, so you know that. So that helps you not only not overbuy for certain people, but it also helps you know if you need to buy things for a couple people. And I keep track even of like gifts for my parents or my husband's parents or like my siblings. I have them on the list too. And then I know, like, you know, when Kohl's will, you know, come out with a 30% off coupon, I'll know, do I still need a gift for so-and-so? But because I've got everything written down, I know whether I need to use that coupon on gifts or not. So the gift log is probably the #1 tip I can give you about gift storage. And it took me a long time to figure that out. I did unpack boxes a lot for a while until I'm like, there has got to be an easier way. And kind of like the wrapping paper, it was like, well, duh, of course. Why don't you write it down? So that's the way I do it now. Another thing I do with the gifts is I label the boxes, and the boxes don't always stay the same. However, if you don't want Snoopy kids to know what's in the boxes or which boxes are them, you've got to give them code names or code letters. So the code letters, my boxes have code letters on them, because if I put an M for my daughter whose name starts with M, she would know which box was hers. Not good. So they have code names. I know what the code names mean. They do not. So if they want to really get creative and unpack all the boxes, they could find their gifts, but they're not going to do that. They wouldn't have enough time or room to do that anyway. So that's the other thing about gifts. So I'm going to show you how my gift stuff works. And then I do reorganize my gifts every year at Christmas because they don't always continue fitting. You know, you take gifts out, now you've got a whole bunch of empty space in this particular box or bin. So I'm constantly reorganizing my gifts into how they fit best into the boxes and bins I have. Sometimes I combine kids. You know, when my kids get older, you know, my little boys, they've got big toys. You know, they've got big stuff for gifts. But my older kids, my daughter who wants clothes and gift cards, you know, her box and bin, obviously her stuff takes up less space. So sometimes I do combine kids in the boxes or bins. But again, I just have that all clearly marked. The idea here is to have clearly marked, or it's going to become a huge frustration for you when you need to get something out. If you're writing in a code that you can't understand, that's not going to be helpful either. So clear markings on what is what, and then a good log will be your saving graces here. So let me take you back into my storage room so I can show you how my gifts work a little bit. Okay, here we go. All right. So down here is where my gifts are. And again, I've got boxes and stuff maximized. I've kind of got them unpacked. Normally I don't have like the Nerf guns and all that out in plain view, but just so that you guys could see better, I kind of unpacked a little bit. But here I have, you know, again, the same kind of thing. Now this is actually, it's not gifts, it's actually picture frames in there, but then this is my sewing machine. So, I mean, again, I'm right up to the, you know, I'm right up to the front of the shelf. So I've just like a Tetris puzzle even with this stuff. I have figured it out. So here's some of my my labeling. Now this is actually an old label. The new label is towards the front, but this is okay because this is my code letter for one of my kids, and this was Christmas, and this was for 2014. So because I'm buying stuff ahead of time when I can get it for really cheap, I will, you know, if it's something that somebody isn't ready for yet, you know, if I got some books and he's not reading and some other stuff for when he's a couple years older, I'm putting that into a box and labeling when that would be the appropriate time to use it. So that's a lot of what your labeling system could include. It depends on how much stuff you have. I mean, I have a ton of stuff that I buy years in advance sometimes. So I have to have that clearly marked too. I don't want to necessarily go into every box I have for this kid for a certain birthday or Christmas, but that way I've got everything just broken down and labeled correctly, so I can go just to the box that I need. Now I'm actually in the process of getting some gifts out for a couple of my kids. So this stuff isn't normally up on top like that, but that's some stuff I'm going to be wrapping actually tonight. But so this is how this works. It's just proper labeling and proper logging of what you have so that you know. Does anybody have any questions about any of the storage or the gift stuff? I am going to, if you do, put them in there, and otherwise I'm just going to quick tell you where I'm going to go from here with storage. I also have a lot of people ask me about clothes storage. I'm going to do a Periscope broadcast on clothes storage one time. I'm going to do, I also have, because I live in Michigan, we have all 4 seasons. So I have clothes storage for winter, I have for summer. So people have asked me, how do you go about doing that? And I have finally found a system that works really well, and it's the most efficient that I have found. So I'm going to do one on clothes storage. I'm also going to do one on more like school stuff, office supply type storage. And there's one other one I had planned too. I can't think of what it is right now though. So I'm just going to do, I think I'm going to take do 4, maybe 3 or 4 Periscope broadcasts and put them up on the blog too, of, you know, kind of like a storage series, because it is huge. If you guys are trying to be frugal, you're storing stuff, you know, as much as I hate storing all of the clothes I have to pass from one kid to the next, as much as it's a pain for me to store that and have to, you know, weed out their stuff for the next younger sibling. I don't have the luxury of being able to afford kind of just buying new stuff, even if I'm buying it at garage sales. So I have to use the stuff I have and recycle it and reuse it between my kids. So I have had to get kind of creative in how I store that stuff and how I do that, because I do have so many kids. That's where I'm headed with some storage stuff on Periscope. Generally in the mornings, you can find me on Periscope. If you're not familiar with when I'm there, I'm somewhere between 9:30 and 10:30, and I generally do a series that's a week long. It's Monday through Friday. This week we're talking about extraordinary living and how to pursue being extraordinary in your life. We're going to be wrapping that up tomorrow, but generally Monday through Friday, now excluding Wednesday. Wednesday's when you'll see me in the evening like this. But generally Monday through Friday, then, again, the exception of Wednesday, I'm there somewhere between 9:30 and 10:30, and we're usually talking about something. We did 1 week on back to school stuff. We did 1 week on talking about mom stuff and mom concerns and how to address those. This week, like I said, it was living an extraordinary life and being an extraordinary person and how to do that. I'm not sure what we're doing next week starting on Monday yet, but that's where you can find me. I would love for you guys to follow me on Twitter or Periscope if you're not already doing that. It's just my name, Jennifer Roskamp. That's how you can find me. I do blog over at theintentionalmom.com. You'll find me there every day too. I've got a Facebook page for The Intentional Mom. I'd love for you guys to check out the stuff I've got over there too. So I hope I've given you some ideas of where you can start and how you can most maximize the space you have for the stuff you have to store. Thanks so much for joining in today or on the replay. I will see you guys next Wednesday in the evening. At least that's my plan at this point. And then I think that's when we'll be talking one of the other storage things. Maybe we'll do clothes storage, maybe. So thanks for all the tips. You're welcome. I hope you were able to find some stuff that you can use. So thanks so much for joining in. I will see you guys tomorrow in the morning on Periscope. So have a great night. I'm off to go make some dinner. See you later. Bye.